Good afternoon. My name is Ola Atamanova, and I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum today. It's been 10 years of the war, and today's day 684 of the full-scale invasion of our country by Russian aggressor. And now we will be talking about the situation in the south of our country. Joining us online is Natalia Humeniuk, head of the United Coordinating Press Center of Security and Defense Forces of the south of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Ms. Natalia. Glory to Ukraine, good afternoon. Glory to the heroes. Miss Natalia, this morning Russians inflicted another strike, another massive missile strike on our country. So what is the situation in the south? What is the aftermath of the strike? In our area of responsibility, the most painful was the strike on the Kryvyi Rih axis. The enemy inflicted a strike upon a shopping mall and a residential headquarters. Unfortunately, the strike resulted in casualties. The rescue operation is underway. The rescuers are trying to find people under the debris. We keep track of the operational situation, and we have to mention once again that the enemy will continue using this type of attacks, so we urge everybody to proceed to the shelters during attacks like this. This attack was predictable. We were warning about it, that as the weather gets worse, the enemy may enable more attacks. Well, it was clear that they would use different types of missiles with different characteristics, different performance to complicate the work of air defense forces, to exhaust the teams before their missile strike. There was a drone strike during which the enemy was looking for our air defense systems. They were measuring the routes for possible movement of the missiles in that way, and as we've seen it, the launch of missiles was focused not only on the regions adjacent to the state border of Ukraine, but also the enemy was targeting the western boundaries and depth of the country. Ms. Natalia, I would like to talk in more details about the situation in Kherson region. We see that enemy continues shelling Kherson region incessantly every day using different types of weapons. So what's going on there? What is the situation in Kherson region? Yes, the enemy tries to compensate the lack of aviation component with their artillery. They continue terrorizing the peaceful population, shelling the West Bank from the East Bank, and it's happening not only in Kherson region but also in Kinbur Spit through Dnipro and Bug. The enemy continues shelling Ochakin and Kotsarupska communities of Mykolaiv region, thus trying to cover the maximum area all along the forward edge of the battle area to disperse the efforts of the security and defense forces of Ukraine. They inflict maximum damage on the West Bank infrastructure because they understand that the supply and logistics depend on them. They try to keep the fire control over the river of Dnipro itself. However, the counter-artillery efforts are going both ways, and results of our work should facilitate the efforts of our troops in the East Bank. We've managed to destroy 15 units of material there, and as a result, within the last day, the enemy used only 3 attempts of assault without use of material. They suffered significant losses, and they don't risk any assaults without support of the armored vehicles. However, they try to enable their aviation after a long pause and quite infrequent use of aviation after the glorious destruction of 3 bomber fighter jets in the East Bank. They were trying to use the non-guided aviation missiles over our area of responsibility. responsibility. However, the enemy failed to achieve any successful results. We continue to maintain and keep our positions. The area continues being under our control, and the enemy continues suffering losses. Ms. Natalia, what is the situation in the Black Sea, in Odessa region? We understand the weather conditions do not favor the occupiers. However, what we document in the sea, in the equator, the enemy continues having 3 battleships in the equator, 2 of them in Black Sea and 1 in the Sea of Azov, which are on patrol. The missile carriers are all in the ports. The enemy did not plan using them during the latest attack, as it was obvious for us. However, they are equipped and they are ready, which makes the situation quite tense, and the level of missile threat is estimated as stable and high by the general staff, as long as the missile carriers exist in the Black Sea equator, and they need only 2 to 3 hours to get to the launch boundaries. The weather is not favorable but is not critical. It's quite possible for the enemy to bring the missile carriers for battle duty, so we continue keeping track of the situation and reporting of any changes. Lately, we've seen quite successful operations of our forces in the territory of Crimea. What is the situation over there now, and to what extent is the enemy air defense capable so far? The air defense was quite intense in Crimea. A very powerful troop was deployed there. They have all opportunities of replenishment of the troops and supply of them during all of the forward edge of the battle area. However, our battle work was so successful that they have to measure the new priorities for configuration of air defense in Crimea. It's clear that the Crimean Bridge is yet another priority facility for their protection, because it's one of the most important logistics and supply arteries. However, it may be only used to a limited extent, and they continue protecting the Bay of Sevastopol because the caliber missiles equipment is very important in that area, and the maintenance of missile carriers is going on there. Also, they have other 2 priority facilities, the platforms for launch of the Shahed type unmanned aerial vehicles near Balaklava. On top of that, in the territory of occupied Crimea, there's a lot more facilities of aviation infrastructure that the enemy keeps using for their aviation and preservation of some equipment. So we have a lot of work to do, and this work is ongoing. So in continuation of the topic of the Black Sea, what's going on with the grain region? Does it continue operating, and what is its efficiency? Yes, the navigation corridor continues operating in compliance with the security component, which has been assessed by the security and defense forces on a daily basis, depending on the development of the operative situation. So we check the security component and we report on the presence or the absence of the mine threats, because there are storms in the city, the weather is difficult, and still the operation of the grain corridor continues. And basically there are no such critical threats in terms of mine and missile safety for the time being. They are all under control, and in case of activity of aviation, everything is being taken into account that the enemy may use their aviation in that area of our responsibility, which can be of threat. So the operation of corridor is going on in a balanced battles situation. So as the security and defense forces assess it as safe, the passage of vessels is allowed. Ms. Natalia, thank you very much for finding time to join in our broadcast. I'm reminding you, dear colleagues, joining us was Natalia Humeniuk, the head of the United Coordinating Press Center of the Security and Defense Forces of the South of the country. For the time being, we want to say goodbye. Thank you for being with us. Our team is working on the schedule for tomorrow, so stay tuned. Keep track of our announcements, and we want to thank our security and defense forces. Glory to Ukraine.